Greetings, Captains. I am Wizard, and welcome to another Starfield ship build guide. This is the Citadel. It is a Class C destroyer scratch build, inspired by the Kepler R. It was meant as a replacement and redesign of the Kepler R, but you can build this from any other ship. The Citadel has 7,000 cargo capacity with 96 mobility and 30 light-year jump range. You can hold 11 crew with it, and you have the best shield and some of the best weapons in the game. It also has one central ladder, and you have every single HAB type available in the game. This ship was designed with the intent to create something that excels in every department, using a true kitchen sink approach, as Stroud-Eklund said. It has everything. Now we have a list of requirements to go through. First of all, you need to be at level 49 to build this. That's when you unlock the reactor that we use. You need 793,000 credits, piloting and starship design at rank 4, and you need to at least complete the mission's grunt work and all that money can buy. If you want to start with the Kepler R, as I do in this build, during the mission Overdesigned, you need to show support for each of the designer's concepts, get the kitchen sink budget approved, complete each type of research mission, and convince the designers to each make one compromise, and you'll get the Kepler R. If you're just finding my channel and you're not at this level, build the Peregrine at level 14. Then when you get the Star Eagle, you can build the Atos. This is a level 14 build also, but it's great for around level 30. When you hit 43, you can turn it into the Atos 2. And this ship can do this. And if you're in the in-game already and level 60 or over, you need a cargo hauler, you can build the Bristleback. I built this ship over the Kepler also, but it can be built over any ship as well. There's no real reason for the Kepler. And of course the Basilisk, if you're looking for a heavy fighter or potentially a light destroyer build for the in-game. I think that Bethesda intentionally made the Kepler R bad, basically to incentivize players to use the shipbuilder. Because after seeing this, why wouldn't you want to turn it into something like the Citadel? Now, of course, this is a heavy build, so it does suffer in the acceleration and braking department compared to something like the Basilisk, but it still has great mobility and is very capable in combat. So with all that out of the way, let's grab our canvas and get to work. To start building the Citadel, first we need to go to Titan and visit New Homestead. Here we're going to get our landing gear and several of our large HAB modules. Get into the shipbuilder, and the first thing we want to do is remove these external Hope Tech landing gears. Next, clear out these Nova bracers and these 4 rear Stroud-Eklund landing gear modules. Find your gear tab in your menu, and we need to equip 8 of the NG20 landing gear modules. Start with 1, of course. Duplicate that right behind, and put 2 more back here. Then you can highlight all 4 of these and duplicate them, put them on the other side. Now the rears are not attached to the rest of the ship, so just throw a couple of the Nova bracers in between those 4 landers on the rear, just so the ship can pass the builder checks. We can get rid of that storage module, cargo module on the front, and you can get rid of those 2 wing pieces. And I'm going to replace those locations with the 30T hauler on both sides. These are not available at your landing pad. Get rid of these windows. And now we can attach some HAB modules. So here we need 3 of the large HAB modules. Number 1 is the 3x2 mess hall. And then we need the 2x2 living quarters. Stick that there, and we need the 2x2 brig. Now, of course, since these are just 2x2s, you can switch the variants as long as you have the module, so they don't have to be the living quarters or the brig right now. Then we want to grab 6 of these 200 cm ballast cargo holds. And these are going to be pretty important later for the look of the ship. And that's what we need at New Homestead. So let's get to our next location. Next, we need to go to Hopetown, which is on the planet Polvo in the Valo system. Right here. And believe it or not, we're only coming here for one module, and it's one of my favorites in the game. It's the Hopetech 3x3 cargo hall. We use this as kind of our main entrance area, and it really makes sense in the layout of the ship. You'll see in the interior walkthrough. Next, we're going to go to the Red Mile, and again, we're only getting one thing at this location. So find Parima and head to the planet Parima 3 and go to the Red Mile. Walk behind the ship services desk, and we need to talk to Lon.
What do you want?
Now all we're getting here is the cargo scan jammer, because we have shielded cargo available at our Outpost landing pad. So go over to the equipment tab and get the multi-frequency scan jammer and just attach it anywhere. Done here. And now we go to go see my best buddy, old Havershaw. If he's behind the plant, you have to like and subscribe.
Everything's so new here. Stroud-Eklund may be new, but it has allowed us to learn from the others.
Get into the shipbuilder, and we need to grab a few things here. First thing we're going to do is get rid of all these old cargo units. We're not going to use any of them. Oh, deja vu reminds me of Bristleback. Delete the engines. And we're going to replace this reactor while we're here, because it is not available at our outpost pad. So grab the fuser DC 403 and put that in place. Now let's put our engines on. Also not available at your outpost landing pad. And we are using the SAL 6830s. These engines have the most maneuvering thrust of anything in the game, and of course your ship won't be as fast with Class C as with Class A or B, but if you want a heavier build like the Citadel is, you need these engines. So now that we've got those things, let's put our cockpit on here. I should say bridge, because it is considered a bridge by the game. So grab the Kontiki B600, and now we need our HAB module that we're getting from Stroud. And I know I'm making you jump all over the dang settled systems to get these things, but it is going to make a lot of sense once we get to our pad and put all this stuff together. Now while we're here, we're just going to go ahead and replace this shield as well before we attach the weapons that we need to grab before we head to our outpost pad. The big heavy ship calls for a big heavy shield, so grab one Assurance SG 1800, and that's what we're going to use. Could also use the 28T Defender if you want for the faster recharge, but let's grab our Eradicator 75 MeV auto neutron beams with a max power of 4, meaning you can equip a maximum of 3 of these to your ship for a total of 12 required power. Let's put these 3 on here, and that is all we need at Stroud. Equip your weapons to a slot, and I just put these in the open one. And let's go to our landing pad. So get to wherever you need to go and get into your ship builder, and let's put this whole thing together. Here's what we've got, and don't freak out, but highlight the whole thing. Trust me. Highlight it, delete it. When you do this, all of the parts that we've gathered are available in your menu until you leave the ship builder. So make sure you do a quick save before you start this. But let's go. First we need our landing bay, and it's going to be the Deimos 120 LD. This one can go front or rear, and we are going to do a rear entry. Make all the jokes you want for the Citadel. So for this ship, our cargo hull that we got from Hopetech is going to be the main entry and exit point for the landing bay and for the docking port. Let's go ahead and attach that. It'll make it a lot easier to continue on with the build. So you want to attach it to the landing bay on the rearmost middle attachment point. And now we can build our lower deck from here. Real quick, before we start adding more stuff, more HAB modules I should say, let's put our docking bay in here. We're going to use the Deimos 110 DP, and if you use the attachment method using both triggers and tapping A, it will automatically be flipped to the bottom of your ship. Just in front of this, I want to go ahead and throw a Stroud nose cap right here, just so we're done with that part. That's going to be the lowest point of the ship at that docking port. Now we are going to start building off of our cargo hull. We're going to start with our shield. You're going to put it right in the middle. This thing is going to be completely shrouded by other modules, and this gives the ship an opportunity to have a really cool feature that I can't wait for you guys to see. I think it's a perfect little gem. So get one of these Galleon S204 cargo units right behind your cargo hull, and then we can stack up our reactor and fuel tank and grav drive. So just like the Basilisk and the Bristleback, we're going to use the 900T. It not only is the highest capacity single fuel tank, but it is also the most efficient fuel tank, hauling the most fuel for its weight. Now, with the grav drive, I always go for the highest thrust to weight ratio, just to save a few pounds on any build. So the GV200 is perfect for this. Now real quick, throw a Deimos belly underneath that grav drive, and that part of the ship is done. Now we can move on to completing our lower deck layout. And the ship, as you saw in the introduction, has these big and imposing arms that reach off the front. And so we are going to build the lower level of those arms, starting with a Deimos 2x1 armory, and this is for RP what I'm considering the crew's armory, and then a workshop right in front of that. On the other side, of the cargo hall, you want to attach a science lab and an infirmary, both from Deimos as well. The reason that I arranged these HABs in this way is because that cargo hall is going to be the main entry and exit point, so it makes sense to have those there in my mind. Now, to start building the main deck of the ship, start by attaching a 1x1 to the front middle point of your cargo hall. Now, off of the left side of the 1x1, using the attachment method, holding both triggers and pressing A, or on PC you just need to hit the G key, and find the Nova 3x2 mess hall that we got. Put that on there. And on the opposite side of the companionway, you want to start with the Nova 2x2 living quarters. Same thing, hold those triggers and press A. Attach that to there. Now, sometimes with modules like this, it will not snap to the desired position that you want the HAB to be in. In these cases, sometimes you can do what I do here. You'll see that the brig wants to be in the same position. There it is. So find a unit that goes in the right position and attach it. And then what you do is just select that unit and change it to the desired variant of that HAB module. So we want to change this to a brig. It will maintain position, and sometimes the door that you want will persist. And you'll see in this case that it does when we get to the interior walkthrough. On the other side, go to the Nova 2x1s and grab the all-in-one B, and then attach a storeroom next to that. Now you'll see later that the door doesn't persist in this case. It puts a hatch into the 2x1, but it doesn't really mess up the flow of anything, so I'm okay with it. Now on the other side, to balance it out, duplicate your S204 cargo hold and bring it up to the nose right here. Now at this point, I start to second guess myself, and I had this notion that instead of using that Deimos companionway, I used a Stroud. So instead of continuing with the build, I redo that whole main deck that we just laid out, and I'm going to go ahead and speed up the footage, and I'll come back to you after I've figured out my issue. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, but I even missed putting that storeroom back in place. We'll get it back on there later. So now we're going to move on to the Stroud 2x2 battle stations that we got from Havershaw, and none of these attach in the position that I want. So I just resort to manually bringing up the part and putting it where I wanted it. Thankfully, and it could partially be due to the bridge that we use, but the ladder went where I wanted it to. So I'll place this here, and just because I wanted to make sure this was going to work the right way, I went ahead and attached the bridge right away before I placed any other HAB modules attached to the battle station. So put your bridge right here, and that's where it's going to live. So now we've got our ladder down the middle, and we can start building our upper deck. And you can see this gap that we have here on each side. I found that if you put those in before the upper deck, that you get erroneous ladders in the rear of the ship, which is obviously undesirable. So follow these steps instead. I tried to use the switch the module method here, but it doesn't work. The captain's quarters, for whatever reason, just puts the hatch in the rear instead of the front. I was hoping that this would work, but it does not in this case. So off of the, where are we going? The back of the captain's quarters, we want to do a Stroud armory. This is the private armory for you. You are the captain, and you are the reason that this ship even exists. Off the front, we're going to have a private workshop, just for the captain's use, even though we know our crew likes to break the rules. So off of the front side of the battle stations, I chose to go with another living quarters, this time Stroud-Eklund. And as you can start to see, we've got a theme going here. I've got Hopetech primarily and Deimos on the lower deck, and I've got Nova on the middle deck and Stroud on the upper. And the reason I used the Deimos computer core there was because I really like the way the interior looks on the Deimos computer core. It is actually quite different than the Stroud, despite most of Deimos and Stroud parts being the same. So now you can fill the leftover slots here and on the left side, and again use your attachment on that point, but grab the Deimos 3x1 living quarters on the left side attached to the back of the cargo hall, or I'm sorry, the mess hall. And on the opposing side, we want to put an engineering bay. So just like on the left side, both triggers an A and find engineering bay A from Deimos. Those are our HAB modules laid out. The only thing that I missed, I should say, is the 1x1 at the front there. And you can see where it's supposed to go. I catch it in a minute and put that back in. Now let's get our landing gear attached to the ship. 4 on each side, starting here. And then on the front one, I like to use this kind of nose cap variant. And it's hard to tell just from looking at it, but from the requirements turntable at the beginning of the video, if you noticed, those front NG-20 landing gears actually have a braking engine built into them. So that's a really good kind of hidden feature of this landing gear that I was previously unaware of. Now to start working on our upper engine attachments, we need 2 Deimos hull A's on the top of the ship right behind the bridge. And then find your cargo tab and grab those 30T haulers that we bought from New Homestead. 1 on each side of the rear hull A. And now, right behind those hull A's, we need a Stroud Cap C in the aft top position. And we're starting to see some shape now. Now at the front of the top deck, since we're in the structural tab, grab a mid bracer from Stroud. Put 1 on each side in front of the upper deck front HAB modules, and of course 2 Stroud nose cap B's in the 4 top position. And then on the front of the Deimos bottom deck HAB modules, we're going to use the Deimos belly pieces. Same as these, just flipped around to the 4 position. 1 on each side. And now you can see we're at our length limit for the ship. And I just realized that I forgot that storeroom, so let me just pop that back in real quick. And then take a second to review. And this is what you should have at this point. We've got all our HAB modules placed, all our landers, and we can now work on some more structural elements to shape the ship. And since I have now distracted myself from the rear, let's put a Nova cowling on each side of the front of our main deck HAB modules. And you've got some choices to go in these spots here. You could do a radiator like this. I chose to go with a Stroud braking engine. because it just is barely longer than the structural pieces on the top and bottom of it. Now, I did want to use the Nova braking engine, but if you put a Nova braking engine in there, it exceeds 40 meters. So, tough luck. I wanted to do it too. But back to engine mounts, we need a Stroud nose cap D right behind our main deck HABs and on each side. And right above, we're going to use those Nova braking engines. And I just really thought these would look good in the nose too. Nice little matching set. Maybe the level 60 version will have it. We'll see. Here I had a lapse of memory and thought that I had used another one of these, but I don't. So ignore this part. I'll speed it up. Okay, back on track now. Let's grab a Nova cowling, 2 LTF, top 4. We need a middle point and one on the rear. Those are good. Now you want to duplicate the middle module of the Nova cowling. Put one on each of your 30T cargoes. And now let's add some shape to the front of those and the rear of our HABs. So go down to Teo and find these nose caps, and you want to flip them over to be the aft variant. So we need one on the right side and one on the left side. Nice finishing touch there. I really like those parts. Now on the front of our top engines, we're going to use a Teo braking engine. So obviously now we're introducing some nice design repetition with those caps front and rear, and which is the same reason I wanted to use the Nova braking engines in the nose. Now on the side of our main deck HABs, we want to use the Deimos bumpers, but on the upper and lowers we want to use the Deimos wings. Now I do something a little bit different in the middle here. So once you place these, pay close attention to what I use, because it's different on each. It's a different approach, and I actually like the result. So copy all 4 of those that you put on the top and move them down to the bottom. You can do it all at the same time because that's a straight up and down move. And then you want to find your Deimos spines. Put one here at the top of the front HAB and one skipping a space behind it. Duplicate those and move them to the other side. And you want to find the Deimos radiator, and you guessed it, put it right in between the Deimos spines there. Now we can shape the outside of our main deck HABs. So go back to your structural tab and find the Deimos bumpers. The middle module for these is actually too long, like that, which is nice. Saves you module limit space. So then duplicate the center piece and put one down here on the bottom in between your front and rear Deimos wings. Then you can take all of those bumper pieces, move them over to the other side, grab them each individually and flip them and reattach them to their appropriate locations on the left side of the ship. So there we go. Those are in place. And we are almost done. Let's fill out the space left between the top Deimos wings. I like these Hopetech cap pieces. Move them right here and right here. And just like anything else, duplicate them, flip them individually, and reattach. Or you can do it that way. Now we need to get our engines on there. And I just realized that I forgot our crown jewel on the inside of the ship. So pull these pieces out of the way and go ahead and delete the HAB because we have to reattach it the proper way. Come in here, and right in front of your shield, you want to put a porthole here. And this is so cool because when you're inside of the ship, this is like a window into the core. This was a total happy accident. This was not planned in any way. I just saw the opportunity and seized it, and I really like it. Wait till you see the interior walkthrough. It's pretty cool. Now you want to reattach your 3x1 Deimos living quarters and reattach your engine mounts. And now, of course, let's put our engines on. Get down to your South 6830s. And you need one down here. Both sides. Two up top. And one on each side right here. Now duplicate this engine down and you'll see it attaches no problem. But when we try to do it on the other side, we run into an issue. And this won't attach. Now this must just be a hitbox error. But basically all we need to do is move that tail cap out of the way, put your engine there. Because we can still use the variant trick, flip it, cancel it, and it will stay right there. So we're good. And now we can move to the front of the ship and attach the remaining modules that we have left. We want to start by putting on our shielded cargo unit, and it is going to go basically at the rearmost point back there. So find your 200 cm ballast shielded cargo, which you get from your Outpost landing pad. And you can do either side here, but put it on the lowest point, just above the Stroud nose cap there. Either side doesn't matter. Now we want to move to our 200 cm ballast non-shielded cargoes, and we need 6 of these, 3 on each side of the arms. So if you put 1 on each side, you can duplicate them, move them forward, and do the same thing again. And that's where those go. Now we need to place a few weapon attachment modules before we attach our weapons. Go over to your structural tab, and first you need an equipment plate. Put that on the top of the Stroud nose cap. And then we need 4 horizon weapon mounts. I'm going to do 1 here and 1 on the opposing side, and highlight and duplicate both those and move them to the attachment point directly below those cargo units there. Now we're going to use 4 Deimos Wing E's, I believe they are. Yes, the Wing E. And you need to flip this around to the 4. Sorry, the aft position is what they consider this one. And you need 1 on each side of the porthole in the front here. 1 and 2. And 2 more just above those 2. And that's all we need to attach our weapons. So now we can do that. So first we are going to put on the PBO 175s, and of course it's up to you exactly where you put these, but I like putting the PBOs just above and below the row of cargoes. You can duplicate them and move them together, attach them there. And now we can attach the eradicators. The first one goes on the equipment plate that we put down right here. And I like to put the other 2 on the top Deimos wing E's. They kind of close off that space and make it look a little more mysterious. And also because if we put them in front of the porthole, it would basically completely block the view. So now we're going to move to our Vanguard Obliterators, and of course we're going to use 6 of them because they have a max power requirement of 2. So 2 on the very bottom, 2 on the very top, and I also put 2 right in front of the porthole there. And you can see there's a nice little gap left, and in the interior walkthrough you'll see there's plenty of visibility out of there. Now the last thing we need to put on is our scan jammer that we got from the Red Mile, and this is a great spot for it. At this point, once you have the scan jammer attached, this ship is at the module limit. You can't build a single other thing unless you replace something else to put it on the ship. And that's it. That is the build. Now we need to move on to assigning our weapon groups and painting. When you're assigning your weapon groups, if you didn't know, the weapon group 0 is your right trigger, weapon group 1 is left trigger, and weapon group 2 is your Y button on Xbox. And I just assigned my strongest weapon group to my right trigger and the weakest weapon group to one or the other so I can keep track. All systems are nominal. So when I painted the ship, I deselected these cargo units to start with just so they would keep their nice bronzy metallic color for visual effect. Now, once you are happy with your color choices, and I know I went with something very similar to the Basilisk, but this one was more of a dark gray and black along with the red. And now you can name your ship and the build is complete. So now we can do a final look and stats check, and you know from the builder that we had 7,000 cargo and 96 mobility, and here are the rest of your stats. Now we need to walk through the interior and show you the window to the core. So we leave the builder, and I know it's not the most convenient thing in the world having the entry be at the rear of the ship, but the layout just didn't work very well with it flipped and at the front of the cargo hall. I prefer it much more this way. And what I love about this cargo hall is just the sheer size of it. Look at all the space in here and so much detail. Hopetech cargo halls are the best in my opinion. Here is our docking port hatch right in the middle, and of course our central ladder. Now that goes straight up to the bridge, and that makes it very easy to get in and out of the ship very quickly from the pilot's seat. Now the right side of the front of our cargo hall, we have our science lab and our infirmary through the science lab. And then of course on the opposing side we have our armory and our workshop, and the bottom deck is the Hopetech cargo hall and the Deimos modules extending off of the front. And these are, as I mentioned before, intended to be used for the crew, because on this ship the captain's quarters has a private workshop and armory. So now we'll move on to the main deck, and immediately we're greeted with our front-facing window, and on the opposite side of our 1x1 companionway is our window to the core. And this is something I haven't seen anyone else do. Of course, this porthole is optional and you don't need to have it here if you need another module slot, but I thought this was super cool. Awesome happy accident and a cool showpiece. Going to the right side first, we have our 2x2 living quarters from Nova. And just off of that is our Deimos Engineering Bay A. Moving back into the Nova living quarters, we'll walk through the outside here and show you why I love this HAB. And I wish your crew would use that pool table, but it also has 2 beds, and the Deimos and Stroud 2x2 living quarters don't have any beds in them, so that's a nice feature. Now this is our Nova brig. It even has a bathroom over there in the corner, and of course you have the toilets for the inmates there. Hopefully we get some mission uses for those brigs at some point in the future. So now we'll go to the opposite side, and we walk into our Nova 3x2 mess hall. Little kitchen here, and right behind we have our Deimos 3x1 all-in-one berth. The reason I chose the all-in-one is because it's got 4 beds in it. The living quarters only has 2. And with the crew capacity that this ship has, I felt as though I needed to add as many beds as I could just to seem realistic. And now I'm back in the Nova mess hall 3x2. This HAB really has some cool little spaces. It's not just a mess hall. I really like the Nova living quarters, and that's why I chose to primarily use them for the main deck of the ship. And here's the Nova 2x1. This is we did the all-in-one berth B for this one. And then here is the door to the storeroom that I tried to attach against that wall, but it did not want to do that. Obviously the game doesn't like to put 2 forward-facing hatches right next to each other, so keep that in mind when building. Now we can move on to our upper deck, which is primarily command and captain's quarters. This is probably my favorite battle stations module. The Deimos one is similar, but I don't like the Hopetech or the Nova. But I also wanted to use Stroud as much as possible on the top deck, even though I use this Deimos computer core here, because look at how it looks. This thing looks great. I love this unit. Man, so much detail on those clear walls are just an awesome touch. So then on the front, opposite of the computer core, is another living quarters. This is the Stroud living quarters unit, and I kind of see this as a, if there's passengers on the ship or some kind of VIPs, or even for my most favored companions who get the special treatment, they get to sleep up there. Now on the right side is all captain's quarters. Of course this is the Hopetech captain's quarters, and on the rear is the captain's personal armory. This is a nice touch, and I feel it really suits a ship of this magnitude and makes you feel like a captain. This is also my favorite captain's quarters module, just because of the way it feels. And here is your personal workshop. And all we have left to check out is the bridge, and then we're going to take this ship out and pick some fights. And as always, we are going to run through the Serpentis system, and we're going to fight the Key, and the Spacer Blattodea, and the Ecliptic Battleship Camulus. So this is the Stroud-Eklund bridge. There's a light and a heavier variant of it. This is the B600, which is the heavier one. And this allowed us to even out our cargo capacity at 7,000. It's a great bridge. Maybe not my favorite, but it really suits this ship well in terms of exterior design and just the way it feels in here. So that's the ship, and we are ready to go out and cause some trouble. But as I'm about to take off, I notice the gunfire down there. Let's go take these boys out, and I can show you how quick it is to get out of this ship.
Never grow weary of seeing places like this.
I need of service, Captain.
Apologies for the rude interruption. I want to thank all of you for watching and for being here for these videos and builds and seeing my progression as I gain experience in editing. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and this encounter has given me an idea for some future content. Thank you again, and let's go pick some fights.
Initiated, Captain. Time to venture into that blue sky.
If you listen to your grandpa, Solomon Co. would have given me a good whooping.